What's up guys, KPlaysHere here, and I am sick. Don't know if it's noticeable in my recording or not, but let's just say that while it's been a great week for my Monster Hunter hype, my sinuses have been having a lot less of a good time. That said though, we've gotten a flood of new news about Wilds with the recent embargo lifting on the media interviews and showcase impressions at Summer Games Fest. Gotta suck it up and talk about some of it, because as a Hunting Horn main, one fact in particular caught my attention. Back when Rise released, Hunting Horn 3 design was hidden right up until the last possible moment Capcom could have shown it. As we all know, there's been some pretty, let's say, mixed reviews towards the changes since then, and the future of the weapon has been pretty unclear ever since. Two very different versions back to back with a single generation, and a new Monster Hunter game announced for next year. Which one is going to be here to stay? That was the burning question for all music playing hunters, and I'd actually assume that we'd have to wait until the Gamescom demo in August at the very least to find out. Fortunately for us though, some of the media interviewers, they understood the assignment, or they must have been part of the 1 to 3% of the Monster Hunter players that do, because they managed to save us the wait and get at least some of the answers we've been waiting for. I'll link the articles I came across in the description in case anyone wants to read around the parts I laser focused on, but when asked about which weapons received the most changes in Wilds, game director Yuya Tokuda himself confirmed that after the two Bogans, Hunting Horn was probably the one that got the next biggest overhaul. What exactly does that entail? Well, we still don't know for sure, but they did come right out and say what we were all wondering. Whatever new bells and whistles they add to it, Wilds' version of Hunting Horn is going to be based on Worlds. Now, in some ways I expected this, and in others it's honestly pretty surprising. On the one hand, if we're being entirely frank, Rise Hunting Horn definitely dealt with some backlash, with the changes making the weapon finally click for some, but falling flat with a lot of others. Some very, very vocal others. No doubt that this reached the developers in some way, but for them to actually act on it is another thing entirely. Because on the other hand, even though the core mechanics did come out highly simplified compared to the old school Horn, there was clearly a lot of work put into the redesign. It's kinda hard to believe that they just tossed that all out right after doing all that. The Portable team does like experimenting with things, and not everything that they try sticks. Take Gunlance's heat gauge or Bow's heavy arrow shot type for example, or for something even more relevant to the topic, Hunting Horn's double note mechanics in Generations Ultimate. This most recent time was less of a tweak to the weapon's usual tools and more a full-on return to the drawing board for a completely new take on its concept. Think more like 5th gen bow, or Longsword's steady shift to a more counter-focused playstyle. After they took that first step in a new direction with those weapons, they kept going on that path. For what we've been told so far, they tried it with Hunting Horn, but they ultimately decided to go back to the old ways. But I don't think we should be so quick to assume that we'll be going back to World Horn 100% just yet. Not saying that I wouldn't be completely fine if that ended up being the case, mind you, just that I wouldn't assume that they'll be totally abandoning the vision they had in mind with Rise until we get more details. In these pre-release interviews, the wording tends to be pretty important. What they say means a lot, sure, but how they say it and what they intentionally avoid saying is also important. The way I read it, Tokuda saying that Wild's Horn will be world-based means that they took the first 5th gen iteration and adapted it to fit Wild's gameplay. Not just erasing Rise from history entirely and working directly from the version before it like it never existed at all. What those changes exactly are is still a pretty big mystery. They could easily just be the parts that Rise that fit what they're aiming to do in that game for this one, but without the more heavy-handed portions that took things too far. Good things like the neutral draw to avoid messing up songs, attack boosts for every song list, or that super smooth breakdancing dodge. Streamlining the more technical old style with a lighter touch this time around could give them a chance to do it right. It of course doesn't just have to be them splicing bits and pieces of new Hunting Horn back into the usual blueprint. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that some of the hinted at additions are entirely original to Wilds. We haven't seen much of Focus Mode yet, but the general details have me very hopeful that my Hunting Horn with Counter Stream could very well end up being a reality. Weapon attacking while mounting also means that we could use songs on the go. Or maybe with that added mobility already something they're considering, we could finally get Monster Hunter Online style running recitals. Whichever way it happens though, the thought of ending up with a smoother Hunting Horn that still catches eyes and keeps the new Rise fans, while bringing the disappointed ones all back all at once, has me pretty excited. I do think we might all be smart to hold back our opinions and expectations with the loop that Rise trailer threw us for though. I don't know whether we'll get weapon teasers before seeing the full demo gameplay with Gamescom being so close, but I think it's safe to say now that we know how much can be left unshown when comparing minute-long flashy displays and an actual look into the deeper mechanics like demos provide. If there's something I can say for sure though, is that with all the complaining I've seen, with the redesign ruining Rise and removing Hunting Horn from the game and oh my gosh the sky is falling, if Hunting Horn doesn't shoot back up in popularity with everyone that hated on the departure from the classic feel coming back when it returns, some of you guys might be a little full of it. Go on, make Hunting Horn a top 5 weapon, or at the very least break the bottom 4. You won't. I kid. But seriously, it will be pretty cool to see what they come up with if they're taking another crack at redesigning my main. I liked World and I liked Rise, so I was going to be happy with whatever they chose as a future baseline for moving forward. Feels good to win no matter what, but I do know that some of you guys were firmly in one camp or the other on the matter. Let me know in the comments if you're happy to see a return to form, or if you'll end up missing the short-lived revamp. It'll be interesting to see how you feel about their decision to go with yet another new version, and what you think those unrevealed additions and changes could be. Here's looking forward to finally seeing what we end up with. In the meantime, with this confirmation that we're going back to a more familiar playstyle to some extent, I'm going to be jumping back into Iceborne to keep my handle on the older mechanics. But I might also stop back into Sunbreak every now and then just to revisit that nice change in pace. Fingers crossed for our weapon teasers and gameplay footage before August, and for the lucky bunch that gets their hands on the demo at Gamescom to bring us tons of info. Hopefully by that time I won't be going through mountains of tissues and cough drops just so I can talk to you guys about what we learned. Till next time though, this has been another KPlays, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.